Hey guys, I was working on the 4-inch SlimPhast, and I wanted to kind of share some of the things that I do when I'm building these that make things work a little bit better. This particular build is using the Knox all-in-one, so that's the flight controller and the 4-in-1 on one board, and then I just use double-sided tape to tape the receiver and the VTX down, and I use this like jumbo Scotch roll. And this stuff's like wicked strong, so once I tape them down, I know they're not going to come flying out the side. But some of the things I like to do, so here I'm running a UFL antenna, and I'll just put it through the hole in the back here, but then I'll take a zip tie, this, you can see here the black zip tie, through the hole and then through one of the lobes of the antenna. And I don't think this antenna is necessarily going to come out and get in the prop line, but I have had where it has gotten snagged on something and it pulled it hard enough that it ripped my UFL off the board, and I ended up losing the antenna. So that zip tie has saved me quite a bit. For my receiver antenna wires, I don't like when these get pushed out too far and the tip of it sticks out the bottom here and gets damaged. I'm fairly certain it's important that those the clear part of the antenna remains intact. So what I do is actually just put a dab of hot glue right on the tip, and then I feed the wire in, and that ends up, solidifying inside the tube and not allowing that antenna wire to pull back out. Something else I like to do, I take my OSD cable, you can see it sticking out here, the OSD cable for the run cam, and I just feed it out through there, through that hole, out with the antenna, and it kind of just dangles in here with the antenna and stays out of the way, and I still have access to that if I were to need to change the camera settings for if we're racing indoors with LEDs versus outdoors. It's nice to have that handy. Previously I've had it just dangling around inside the frame, and if those wires or those two get grounded out on something, I've had the menu actually come up mid-flight and it was going through the options, and that's just not cool. So I tried this, and this has been working pretty well, just having it dangle inside the lobes there. It's protected and it stays out of the way. For LED placement, I find that one fire LED on the arm is the exact height of the arm thickness plus your motor wires, so it ends up being just like a good option for just zip tying it right there. And I just throw a dab of hot glue on the back side so that it's got support on that top edge. I found that it's best to either heat shrink the entire things with some kind of like rubbery heat shrink that helps it kind of grab the arm a little easier, or definitely some double-sided tape on the back there. But I find the heat shrink kind of adds just a slight layer of protection to the whole thing without being too bulky. Oh, another thing I do on this 4-in-1 or this all-in-one board, the clearance between the board and the standoffs wasn't very good, so I actually ended up cutting the bottoms off of that 3D print. So basically this much, I just cut that off the 3D print, and it still gets the job done, but it's not pushing down onto the wires or on my 4-in-1 board, affecting that there. And it's a lot easier to get the part on and off that way. Another tip, when you have the this top plate on, if you were to get flipped over on your lid and try to utilize turtle mode to flip back over, the front props will actually be completely off the ground because of this 3D printed part, but the back motors will be touching, the motor nuts will touch. And what I found is two things. Two things can help you. One of them is to actually use another one of these camera guards on the back, and it'll actually sit all four motors slightly off the ground, which will allow you to spin them up in order to get flipped back over. But another thing I tried out, and this worked as well, was I put, you can see there, nuts on the bottom of the plate before I screw it in, so that will actually keep that elevated by that much. I initially had done this because the USB port on the Knox is right there, and if I push the camera down far enough to get the top lid on, then I can't get access to that USB port, and so I needed a way to get this camera elevated just that far. So I threw those nuts on there, but then I realized that after the fact that also might be a good way to gain a little bit extra height on this, just to keep these props off the ground in order to turtle mode. And then for the motor wires, for the other ones, I just put one thing of tape. I make sure they're all laying flat so they're not going to get hit by the props, and then they usually get protected by this nut here if you're using props out. So if it were to get bent down, it would end up clipping that nut and getting pushed out before it's cutting your motor wire. but this is my 4-inch here. I don't know. Hopefully these tips help somebody with their build and just kind of figuring out. Thanks for watching.